Hello, my fellow students. Pardon the background. It's just a few things that I'm adding on and taking off, deciding what I want. Let's talk today about generational programming. Now, since I'm almost 64, and there's not probably going to be many people older than me listening or watching something like this, each generation is programmed in a different sort of way. And our gears don't mesh. We just don't fit together with the earlier generations. Like, I was brought up in a house where there was my mother, my grandfather, my grandmother. And my grandmother was born in 1911 and my grandfather was born in 1907. And you talk about generational dissonance where it didn't mesh. We had a record player in the house that he played country music that was old country music. I remember I got one Beatles album, and my mother had one album called The Age of Aquarius. But we didn't play it when Grandma and Grandpa were home. And he would play Eddie Arnold and Hank Williams and Burl Ives and just all these very, very old people. And I didn't exactly resent it, but I've learned now to look back on the generational difference and how important having my grandmother and my grandfather there, because my mother was caught up in at the time she was a divorced mother back in 63, and that was not that common. And we had a very different living situation when I grew up. I had 3 adults against me. That's how I became so sneaky, crafty, able to get away with stuff, because I had to have my story together before I pulled anything. Most kids, they had brothers and sisters that could deflect. No, Johnny did it. No, Mary did it. I didn't do that. I had no defense, none at all. So this generational programming, back then, I was told at 14 years old, I'm not going to use the F word, but I was told I would be gay if I didn't start chasing girls. Now, I grew up, I could be on a skateboard to the main beach in 30 minutes on a skateboard. I could get to the water in 10 minutes on my bicycle. And I grew up in the land of girls in bikinis. Okay, west coast of Florida. There was no hidden nothing. And until the summer came. And I was taught then, I was peer pressured into chasing girls. And I was told if I didn't get to home plate, I would be considered what we now term as gay, but they use a much different word. We used a different word back then, and it did mean what people think it meant. But you could also use the F word for people that just were jerks. It was like, you didn't want to be called a nerd then either. And people today, they're not afraid to be called nerds, but back then, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Today, it supposedly causes hurt. So I came into this where I'm in the Old Testament still, and the lessons are huge. Now look, you can get as bored as you want. This podcast is meant to ignite you to say, let's go look at some of this. Let's go see some of this. What's in this book? Okay? I'm not here to preach you a sermon. What I'm here to do you is show you the beginning of a path through a forest of trees. Quit looking at the trees. Look at the forest and then look for your path, because the forest is thick. So God says to the people of Israel, because they had rebelled over and for hundreds of years, they rebelled. God forgave them. But the hand of righteousness will give you a smack when your iniquities fill up. Okay, when you've filled up the bowl, the jar, the cistern, the barrel with your sin, then God has to take action. But He is a forgiving God. He will forgive you. He sent His own Son. Come on. How many of you, how many of me, how many of us would sacrifice ourselves for people we don't even know? God knew us. But this is interesting. And I had to look this up. What do you mean by using this is God talking to Ezekiel. What do you mean by using the proverb containing the land of Israel, saying, the fathers eat the sour grapes, but the children's teeth are set on edge? We don't even speak this way today. Okay? This is why your vocabulary is so important. And again, I'm gonna make a sidebar here. Do all this in secret. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. Don't tell people your plans, your best friends. I don't care. If you haven't got Jesus in your heart now, or even if you do, it's almost better. It is better to be alone, talk to God on your own, and tell him your innermost thoughts because he already knows them. Admit to him. Tell him what's going on with you. You go to your friend. How many of you been betrayed by a friend? I've been betrayed by a friend, by people that supposedly love you. They betray you. They ask forgiveness. You forgive them, but in your heart, you really don't. Okay, that's just the way it is. But the meaning of the fathers eat the sour grapes, but the children's teeth are set on edge. We are suffering because of what our fathers did. Now, look, this is generational sin. It does happen, but it also says the context of this, God is talking to the fathers. He says they'll suffer to the third and fourth generation. But to those who love me and keep my commandments will be saved. Okay. He doesn't want those that hate me. All right. Let me make sure I've got this here. Okay. Third and fourth generations of those who hate me. Okay. So there's a way out if your parents have done terrible things. Now, I also know about people that pray over generational curses. I believe I was under one, especially under the curse of alcohol, because we're able to trace my family back a long way, and the alcohol on the male side, oh my Lord, just goes way back and back. But today we think in different terms. Back then, I was taught chase girls. Okay, girls, you know how you were taught. I can have as many of those as I want. Okay. Boys, we were limited in how much damage we could really do. Girls, you know how you're taught. You've got all kinds of men knocking at your door, calling you. Now today, what really does irk me is, say, I see these debates where somebody comes up and they're transsexual or bi or something, and the person preaching the word goes to the Bible and basically uses verses to walk up and literally spiritually hit people in the face with the Bible, instead of saying, you know what, here's the way I think. We're all in one boat. We're all in one flesh. We are made male and female. However, we are all brothers and sisters. We're all related in some way. We're supposed to stick up for family. God says, love your enemies. I'm not saying people are my enemy. That's an extreme sense of forgiveness. So when I see this, where people today, back then, anything except being a straight up heterosexual was considered perversion. And in fact, I'd like to take that word back too, because any twisted thought is perversion. All right. And heterosexuals, I didn't really mean to get into this rant on this, but when I see heterosexuals that think they're better than other people, standing on a pedestal, standing on a stool, standing on an altar, standing on a stage, saying, oh, you're going to go to hell because you violate this rule sexually. Oh, really? I'm going to say it, that there is not a person on the planet, I don't care if it's your 80-year-old grandmother, doesn't have perverted thoughts in her mind. Everybody does. And if somebody tells you, I've never had a perverted thought in my life, liar. Be careful. Be careful of narcissists who will never apologize, never ask for forgiveness, never say they're wrong. Be very, very wary of those kind of people. So today, let's get back to it. My age, chase girls. Girls, you got all kinds of guys chasing you. All right, you're walking around in a bikini, you're slim, you're trim, you look good, because back then, there was no fat people like me. Now, that's the way I am today. There wasn't any. So, the eye candy was huge. 9 months of the year. All right. I mean, it was all out there. All right. But today, when you come up and you say, well, I believe that I was born this way. I believe I became this way. I discovered myself. Well, you've been programmed. I was programmed. My earlier generations were programmed. Later generations programmed. You're programmed. You're programmed to think certain ways, but that does not mean you have to submit to it. That's why I say keep it secret. There's a young lady I know right now whose mother and father claim that they are Christian. She has decided she is gay. And I got to be honest with you. Even if my son or daughter came up to me and said, I've committed murder, they're my blood. I can't turn my back on them. We've all even committed that crime. We've all done it. In the spiritual world, we have committed murder a lot. Truth, honesty, integrity, love, faithfulness. We've murdered stuff. We've murdered stuff that God's given us as blessings. Gives us a blessing, we kill it. Gave us Jesus, we killed him. Now, he gave his life, but we put him in there. You know, God had to let Jesus give his life for us. So today, you're different. The problems that are attacking you now are different than when I was a kid. All right? You've got different things happening to you. You're trying to run away. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, real honest. I'd be running too. You've got 100 times more problems than I did as a kid. I need to consult my notes for a minute, but it's so funny that the person who sins will die, the son who will not bear punishment for the father's iniquity, nor will the father bear the punishment for the son's iniquity. What's that say? The word righteousness, rightness before God, if you follow in your parents' footsteps and they hate God or they think they can do whatever and you're going to follow in that and not break that programming mold that you've been born into, I'm going to do a thing on people that tell me, I didn't ask to be born. Well, you were born. And let me go down here a minute. Here's some notes. I mean, you inherited programming, but God doesn't require you to stay programmed. He wants you to break that mold. He's giving you the Bible, which is a how-to manual. It's a treasure map. Okay? It's an atlas. How to get from one place, which is here, to another place, which is up there. And I did a little short a little while ago about don't be afraid to read the Word. The reason most people are afraid to word is someone's going to look at them and use the term I grew up with. Are you a Jesus freak? Yeah, I am. Oh, you reading that? Most people today don't even want to read. Well, you've got your phone to read from. You've got your computer to read from. There's a kid who lives near me right now who I can see sits and plays a game all day. Give God a little time. Break your programming. We have been molded into that which is the world. And it's up to us to break it out, to break out of it. God gave us free will. We need to repent of our sins in our heart, saying it out loud. I have another friend who just told me, how come you don't pray online? How come you don't pray? Or say a prayer for the people watching this? It strikes me, I've talked to God about this, it's kind of pretentious. Let me pray for you. No, that's not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be in the debate floor, which I'm going to talk about in another video. But here's a list. I'm going to resort to my notes for a minute about what the world says about us today. This is just who I am. If you cannot apply the self-control to change who you are, you got problems. You really do. If you've got great parents or great people that are around you that are doing the right things, you will act like them. This is the same thing out of a 12-step program. Change your friends. Change your environment. It comes to action on your part. Okay, you cannot get to heaven with your works, but you can take action up here. I'm so tired of self-help people. If you just do this, if you just buy that, if you can take care of yourself on your own in the world. No, you can't. None of us can. Okay? You know who I'm talking about too. And then you got the world also says, my parents made me this way. Yes, that's true. Break it. Any programming you don't like, I should have fought back much harder against my mother. My father was not part of my life. I don't hold it against him. I know what happened to him in World War II. Society programmed me. Yes, society did program you. Absolutely. My trauma, this is a big one. My trauma excuses me. No. Your trauma cannot excuse you. Everybody's going to face trauma. When I get people that say, you don't understand. When I hear people say, oh, you don't understand. I had the worst divorce on the world. Mine was worse. And then somebody else says, oh, you don't understand my injury. My parents had cancer. My dog died. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me. You just don't understand. We live in the same boat, floating on the same sea. Nothing new under the sun. You can't tell me you experienced something new that nobody else has ever experienced, including myself. I'm going to address this next one shortly. I was born into this. Yeah, you were. You were born into this. Somebody loved you so much that they allowed you to be born into this world. So when people say, I didn't ask for this, I didn't want this, I'll get into this shortly. No, maybe you did. How do you know? Nothing really explains it. So here's what the word says. So let me recap on the world. This is just who I am. My parents made me this way. Society programmed me. My trauma excuses me. I was born into this. You know what the word says? This is just a synopsis. You may have inherited tendencies, wounds, lies, habits, and distortions, delusions, but you're still called on to turn to God. I came up with this idea because I'm in the Old Testament. It's a horrific self-judgment, horrific self-evaluation. I don't see it as those people did this. I see it as I did it. I'm as weak as any of them. So you may have inherited all these things, but you know what? It applies to everybody equally, whether it's sexual sin. I mean, it goes through a list here that I pulled up. Greed, lust, rage, self-hatred, hypocrisy, hatred of other people. We are all, oh God, this was great. I was corrected on this one. I sometimes pretend and I make the AI, I make it become Pinocchio. And I said, so what do you think really did this to us? And it came back and it pulls this from a lot of other information. It's the way you question it, okay? And it corrected me, and it says, we are all programmed by something broken. We're all programmed by something broken. What was before me was broken. My grandparents were broken. My children were broken in certain ways. Their children will be broken in certain ways. Yeah, that's how that's going to work. But programming is not your destiny. So I got a lot of other stuff in here that I can go over. But once I get, the algorithms aren't going to like me anyway, but once I get the website where I want it, I'll be posting these things up just like they are. And there's a lot of things that I have in here that I could add on easily. But I also want you to understand that you have the strength of your own mind. I've gotten myself in trouble already from some people that said, man, you're cutting out pastors and preaching. Yeah, I am. I got to be careful what I say, because my trust level in people of power is not the highest. And yeah, there's background noise. I don't care. People are asking for this and asking for that as a podcast. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. My background, it doesn't care. I don't care. I've done so many things that was according to my programming growing up, partying. I made money. I know how to make money. I do. I did it. I've done it. I've done it a couple times. I also know how to do things to lose money. But generational programming is also right in front of us, and it's made to be broken by you. Yes, you got to be broken to get to Christ. He'll break you too. God's going to break you. Broken and remade. There's a Japanese art, I can't remember the name of it, I'll find it later, where they break a vase and they put it all back together with gold, and it looks beautiful. It's artwork. That's the way I view our souls. We break our minds. God will put us back together using gold, using His wisdom, His love, His faith. I mean, He's got faith in us. He made us. Maybe I'm wrong for saying that. If I am, somebody call me out. So anyway, generational programming. Apply it to yourself. Think about it. Do your own research about it. And then see how that applies to you. I told you my story, how I was programmed sexually, and I was also taught to listen to everything my teacher said in school. Well, I learned very, very early that my teachers, whatever, I had them telling me that if I didn't do certain things the right way, I was going to go to the principal's office. That's the same way it is in society today. If you don't do the certain things a certain way, you're going to jail. Generational programming. Look into it. Apply it to yourself. I'll get back to you.